Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new video. Tonight we have 2 hours of horror stories as per usual. I hope you all enjoy them. If you do, please be sure to drop a like rating. Let's go for 1100 likes on this one. I think if everybody took just a quick second, we could do it. Subscribing if you're new is also very much appreciated, as I do post content just like this all of the time. I'm trying to reach 150,000 by the end of the year, and we're not too terribly far off. Anyways, sit back, do whatever it is that you do to relax, enjoy the 2 hours of horror stories with no mid-roll ads. Except for the ad break after this intro, there will not be any more after that one. And as always, I hope you all have a great night. My roommate doesn't seem to like me very much. I remember introducing myself and he was so startled, he nearly fell out of his chair. I chuckled under my breath and tried to apologize, reassure him, but he promptly stood up and left. I came across him watching TV. I offered a, "Hey, how's your day been?" He turned the volume up so loud the sound came out all distorted. I only tried to interact a few more times after that. He ignored me completely. This one time I tapped him on the shoulder, just trying to get past, and he practically jumped out of his skin. He ran off to his room and slammed the door shut. The sound of something heavy being dragged over the floorboards rumbled through the house. His housekeeping skills don't make up for this either. He's the worst, to be honest. He rarely cleans after himself. His dishes are always piled in the sink. There's dust everywhere, and he's plastered over the windows with old newspapers. I don't know why. He's even taken all the mirrors down as well. There's not even a single piece of shiny cutlery to chance a reflection off of. Everything is plastic. I tried to peel some of the newspaper off a window once, and he screamed at me until I stopped and backed away. He retreated to his room for a while. I noticed the paper had been replaced an hour or so later. I've kept mostly to myself since then. Of course, I still bump into him, but he doesn't stay in the same room for long. I thought I'd try to be helpful and announce where I was and where I was going, to avoid another startled incident, but this seemed to make things worse. He started whispering things, never loud enough to make out, but it had a similar rhythm to them each time, so I stopped. I'm relieved that he doesn't come anywhere near my room. He barely acknowledges that too, my sanctuary after dealing with his oddness for most of the day, because he is here all day, or used to be. I was up in my room and there was a loud bang on the front door. It burst open, followed by the sound of multiple footsteps. I stayed in my room not really knowing what to do or expect. A soft, muffled voice came floating up the stairs. A woman's as best as I could tell. A few more words were exchanged and then another bang. I could hear my roommate sobbing. It got louder before fading again, and I realized he was being taken away. He was being taken somewhere. I ran to the window at the front of the house, tore off the newspaper, and saw him being carried into an ambulance. A few neighbors looked on with hands over their mouths, or heads hung low. I didn't know we had neighbors. His last act before being bundled into the back was pointing back at the house. At me. Directly at me. One of the medics turned to look. It must have been windy as they shook off a chill and returned their attention back to my roommate. No one came back for me. They left me. For the first time since I can remember, I was alone. That was 3 days ago now. I wondered when he would return. I didn't really like him, but he was a constant in the house and now he's gone. It feels rather empty. I never, ever stepped foot into his room before, and I'm not proud, but I didn't know what else to do. So I went snooping. The door was wide open. The floorboards had worn out grooves leading from the doorway to his dresser. His room was a state. Newspapers piled high in each corner. Empty takeout containers scattered around the room, growing with mold. Flies buzzed somewhere, searching for what I didn't want to think. His desk was the only area he'd kept relatively clean. A laptop sat open in the center with a scattering of notes pinned to a cork board behind it. I went over and booted it up. It blinked asking for a password. I scanned the notes looking for a clue, but my fingers instinctively moved to the correct keys. Numbers 020226. The desktop was a chaotic mess of saved notepad entries and links to various web pages. I tried a few. There were some for self-help, some on how to deal with grief, coping strategies. Then I found something far more curious. His most recent searches were on topics like seeing things, feeling things, voices, unwanted spirits, exorcisms. His coping mechanisms were obviously failing him. I regretted never trying to get through to him properly. Maybe I could have helped. I tried the notepad entries next. A journal of sorts. Starting from March 28th, 26. My therapist wants me to write a journal, like I'm a 14-year-old schoolgirl. Nothing else has worked, so why not, right? I can still see it, hear it, the smell of burning oil and rubber and something else. I want it to stop. I wish I had them back. I'm so sorry. Elias. I jumped forward a few days to March 31st, 2026. I keep seeing it standing there, watching me. It doesn't do anything. It just watches. It's better when it's dark. I can't see it in the dark. I've blocked the windows and taken down the mirrors. If I stop looking, maybe it will leave me alone. Elias. April 1st, 2026. It spoke to me. Hello, it said. Its voice garbled, an amalgamation of theirs. One's own imagination can be very cruel, it would seem. I couldn't stand to hear it again, so I left the room. I don't know where it went after that. Elias. April 2nd, 2026. This thing is growing bolder by the day. I saw it drift into the living room out of the corner of my eye. It sat in the space next to me. I could feel it so close. But I kept my eyes on the TV. Ignore it and it will go away. It tried asking me about my day. It sounds so much like them. I barely held it together. I turned the volume up louder so I couldn't hear it. I'm sure I'll get complaints because of that, but I don't think I could have stomached another word. Elias. April 3rd, 2026. It touched me. Physically touched me. It wasn't in my head. I know it wasn't. It crept up behind me and touched me. The thing touched me. I ran as fast as I could up here and barricaded my door. It can't get me in here. I know it can't. April 4th, 2026. It tried to peel off the newspapers. It wants me to see it. It is trying to torment me. It wants to torment me. I stared. For too long I stared at its face. I could make out some features. Of all of them. Her nose. Her wide, innocent eyes. My sweet boy. I'm so sorry I've made you into this thing. I need to make it dark again. April 5th, 2026. Ignoring it seems to be working. I haven't seen much of it lately, and when I do, I immediately leave and it leaves me alone. It doesn't follow. It doesn't talk to me. I think it's working. It's finally working. I'll be okay. I'm going to be okay. April 6th, 2026. No, 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 no. It's telling me where it is in the house. Why? Why would it do that? Can it not tell I don't want it here? I want it gone, out of my life. I just have to keep reminding myself. I'll be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'll be okay. I'm going to be okay. I'll be okay. The last entry is nothing but that same phrase repeated over and over again. I realized that was the same day he was taken. He must have still been typing that when they came. I had seen enough. I powered down the laptop. The screen went black, and for the first time I saw my own reflection. A pair of wide, Misaligned yet innocent eyes stared back at me. I tilted my head from side to side, as a curious dog would. It followed. I closed the laptop. A note much larger than the rest sat dead center on the corkboard. February 2nd, 2026. Fatal crash on I-95. Father sole survivor. It showed the wreckage of a car. 2 small pictures of a woman and boy were underneath it. I recognized their faces. Elias is his name. I wonder when Elias is coming back. I've booted up the laptop again to ask you all. Does anyone know where they take them? People that scream a lot? I want to say sorry. Maybe Elias will come back. I need him back. I can't remember feeling hungry before he left. Hey guys, so as the title says, me and my boss found an alien, and we really don't know what to do about it, especially considering what happened recently, looking for advice or whatever. So, to make a long story short, I work for a quick check in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Started working there as a summer job, but now, ever since the old art degree didn't pan out, it's been that and Uber for the past 3 years. My parents are sick of me, but what can you do? I'm in the store around 5 in the morning. No one's been in there for I'd say 30 minutes. And that was just Dale for his morning coffee. My boss walks in and immediately he starts sniffing around. Jay, did you crap yourself? What? Mike, no. What are you talking about? I smell something rancid. Did someone leave out a thing of milk? No. I inhaled deeply as well, and sure enough, there was something faint and sickening from inside the store. It's probably a dead rat. Better not be. I paid way too much for those ladybug pest people to not get rid of the nest. He went behind the counter and grabbed a broom. I'm gonna look around. Knock yourself out. My boss started circling around the quick check, checking under displays and checking out the employee break room. He went into the back storage and let a soft, "The hell?" out. He came out and walked out towards me. Whose weird stuffed animal is that in there? He asked. Stuffed animal? I repeated. Might be Kevin's. Yeah, but it smells like rot, man. Like he's been jerking off into it when he's on his break. I shuddered. You need to get rid of that thing. No, I don't want to touch Kevin's weird thing. I haven't reported you for those Zins that have gone missing. You owe me. I groaned as I grabbed a trash bag from under the counter and trudged to the back of the store. When I entered, though, he wasn't there. Where did you see it, Mike? It's on the table. No, it's not. What? Do I have 2 Kevins? He walked towards me. It's literally right. He pointed at the table and he fell into a hushed silence. It was there. He turned to me. Okay, Jay, screw off. I don't know what sick prank you're pulling, but whatever plush toy you filled with crap or whatever. What are you saying, Mike? I didn't. We were both cut off by a loud gurgle. We looked up above our heads, and attached to the ceiling was the creature. It had 2 bulbous and wrinkly sacs on each side of its head, a beak, and had nothing I could note as eyes. Its torso, if you could call it that, was excreting some kind of viscous slime onto the ceiling, allowing it to cling, assisted by 5 spider leg-like tentacles. Mike, is that the stuffed animal? We looked at each other incredulously, and bolted out of the storage room, closing the door on the way out and pushing against it with our backs. We breathed heavily, the smell becoming even stronger. Jay, I swear to God, if this is some kind of prank, you're not only going to be fired, but my foot is going to be shoved so far up your... Mike, I promise you, I have zero clue what that thing is. We stared at each other for a moment, as Mike slowly backed away from the door and I cracked the door slightly to look at what we were dealing with. Is it still there? Yep, still chilling on the ceiling. It started to make soft cooing noises as it descended slowly. It was aware of my presence, I think, as it guided 2 tentacles onto the lunch table to steady itself before coming down. When it did, the sacs on its head inflated, allowing it to pull together all 5 tentacles into one firm mass, as it wiggled and gyrated on the table, leaving a firm layer of mucus. It then guided itself off the table and went into the back of the storage area. I cracked the door further and started to step inside to approach the table. It wrote something. What do you mean it wrote something? Mike hissed. I approached further and saw a drawing of an oval, with 2 triangles on the bottom, 2 dots, and a bird-like shape in the center. It was then I noticed the garbage strewn across the room. It drew the Pringles guy. What do you mean it drew the Pringles guy? Mike said as he stormed irritatingly into the back room. He then gazed thoughtfully at the table. It drew the Pringles guy. It drew the Pringles guy. The creature happily cooed. Well, what do we do, Mike? We give the thing what it wants. Mike marched out into the store, grabbed a can of Pringles, and rolled it carefully towards the creature. The creature burbled and grabbed the can with 1 tentacle. It stood the can upright, then, reinflating the sacs to float, and using 2 tentacles to pry the lid in half, used the remaining 3 tentacles to scoop the chips into its beak, which separated into 4 pieces, allowing for a cavernous mouth to form. When it was done, the creature clicked its beak with seeming happiness, and rolled the can back over to us. Son of a... I said softly. Quick, get him another, Mike said eagerly. I did, and again, the creature repeated the same process. We grabbed salt and vinegar, sour cream and onion, barbecue. The thing sucked literally every crumb out. After the 7th can, it cooed as it approached Mike and I, reaching out a tentacle. I think it wants to be friends with us, I said, mesmerized. Yeah, grab its hand, Jay. I ain't grabbing that tentacle. You grab it. No, man, I'm your boss. You want OT or what? I groaned and reached my hand out for the creature to touch. When it did, it was as though time itself slowed down. I could feel every muscle of the creature's body, every muscle in my own body. It felt as though we shared a mind. I saw a lush yellow paint, and I saw grand, majestic creatures. And then I saw the empty vacuum of space, and the deep, deep cold, for what could have been millennia, until there was an unfreezing and he was here. I started to cry. Jesus, are you okay, man? I disconnected from the alien. No, I mean, yeah. He's beautiful, Mike. He's just like us. Mike stared at me incredulously. What? Did he make you gay? No, it's not that, it's just... Hello? Is anyone here? A shrill voice echoed through the store. We're on the clock. I pointed to the alien. You stay here, little guy, okay? The alien clicked his beak. Then Mike and I left the storage room. When I came out, there was a woman at the counter, tapping her foot impatiently. In one hand was a $10 bill. In the other was a gallon of milk. Mike went into his office, and I went behind the counter. Hi, I'm sorry about that. I went to grab the money out of her hand when I noticed the viscous goo that coated it from when I touched the alien. The woman looked disgusted. I get y'all can do that now, but like, at work? No, nothing like that, trust me. I chuckled as I wiped the goo on the side of my jeans, making the scene look slightly more suspect. Okay, just give me my change, she said as she looked away. She sniffed in and then looked back at me, and then towards my torso and grimaced. Do you even know what condoms are? I don't know. Do you know how to keep your mouth shut? I said, counting the change. She scoffed. How rude. You people need to treat others with respect, she said, grabbing her change in her fist and leaving the store. I sighed deeply before going back to the storage room with a can of Pringles. I watched the little guy suck them down as he climbed around the storage room. I tried to give him other snacks, Lay's chips, fruit snacks, heck, even a sandwich, but he only liked the Pringles. Hey Jay, Mike said, entering the room and closing the door. So I get that thing is an alien, but like, what do we do with it? He squatted down to look at him. This feels like an FBI kind of situation. Yeah, but like, he's intelligent, and he's good. Like, I don't think the government will treat him well. He might get tortured. Yeah, but Jay, it's an alien. He looked to me. It could have any number of diseases, or it could tell its homeworld that we're a good planet, or like... No, Benjamin would never. Benjamin? Yes. Like a vape? 'Cause he sucks on the Pringles and he can draw. Mike stared at me. Listen, Benjamin could be evil, dude. We don't know. I looked at the little guy, his little face sacs rumbling, when I heard the front door slam. Excuse me? I said, leaving the back to go to the front. There again was the lady holding the opened container of milk. This milk is expired. Expired. How dare you? Are you trying to poison me and my children? She screamed. No, ma'am, nothing of the sort. What day is it today, What day is it? The 17th? Yes, and what does it say on this milk? She pushed the milk towards my face, her other manicured hand tapping her nail against the date. May the 16th. Oh, so we can read. I need to speak to a manager, or else I'll be speaking to corporate. And... what is that? She pointed down at the ground. I turned to see Benjamin. Oh, that. Funny story. Oh my god, ew. That thing is disgusting, she screeched. Benjamin's head sacs vibrated uncomfortably. You people have vermin in this store? No, so actually, I'm calling the cops right now. You're disgusting. I'm going to get this place shut down. Benjamin let loose a high-pitched screech and sprinted over to the woman. It latched itself onto her, climbing up her leg, then to her torso. Get it off, get it off. She closed her mouth once its tentacles got her to her face. The alien then took its two tentacles onto the woman's lips and forcefully separated them, her jaw becoming limp. I watched on in horror. The other three tentacles reached deep into the woman's throat, making it bulge and writhe as her organs were pulled out of her torso. First her lungs, then her heart, then some intestine. Sucked up like it was spaghetti into the bottomless mouth the beak revealed. The woman spasmed, her body being rooted around for any morsel of nutrition, before going limp and falling to the ground. The alien, its beak covered in blood and viscera, released her, her body more or less just a pile of misplaced bones and hollow skin. I fell back as Benjamin grabbed another can of Pringles and went into the back storage area. Hey, I heard a commotion, Mike said. Everything all... What the... he cried, looking at the woman's body. We stared at each other. Hey, listen, Mike. I didn't know that was gonna happen. Get the mop. What? Look, Jay, I'm not going back to prison. You see this? He lifted up his pant leg to show an ankle monitor. This is the only reason I'm able to see my kids. Get the mop. Mike, please, dude, a woman died. And you think the cops are gonna believe an alien did it? He screamed. He was right, so I got them up. We dumped what remained of the woman in the Watchung reservation. There was a nearby creek that was pretty active, so she kinda just floated away. The whole situation kinda has torn me up inside. No pun intended. Anyway, coming over here to ask if anyone has any experience with this kind of thing. And maybe I could get some help from someone who believes all of this. I don't know. Good to get it out, though. Peace. I hate AI. To be exact, I hate how absolutely everywhere it is. Every third tweet you see on Twitter looks generated by ChatGPT. My grandparents wouldn't stop falling for AI-generated cat videos. Even my diary app has an AI feature to write my thoughts for me. Like, God, give me a break. And this BS has been taking away all the passion I have for my work, too. When I was a junior marketing content creator 2 years ago, my work was fun. Brainstorm hooks, record 2 videos following recent TikTok trends, submit them to my supervisor for checking, post, done. I'm the supervisor now, and things have changed a lot in 2 years. The higher-ups expect tripled output now that we don't have to manually record videos anymore, and can just generate them. So now there are 6 junior content creators, each creating 6 video ads in a day. And who has to sit through all of them, flagging each AI-generated error and suggesting edits? Me. My boss knows I need to really lock in to finish all that quality checking, so he allows me to fully work from home. At least I have that. Tonight, I flagged one too many AI errors, and really felt like screaming at something. That was when my phone dinged. It was Stephanie's mom. She texted, "Hi Bella, have you seen Stephanie lately? She hasn't visited for months now. Would be good to hear from you." Stephanie, my best friend since high school. I didn't realize how much I missed her. I'd been too busy to really talk to her since my promotion 4 months ago. She was the biggest AI hater I know aside from myself. She could talk about how bad AI was for our brain and environment for hours and hours. Maybe it would be good to crash out a bit and vent to her. I opened my phone and texted her, "Stephanie, I'm so burned out." Not even 5 seconds later, I deleted that message. It would have been unfair for me to yap to her now, not after 4 months of being MIA. I didn't even know what she was doing anymore. I pulled up Instagram, logged in. I'd also been off this app since my promotion, and looked her profile up. From her latest post, I could see that she was still a community manager at Hypno AI. I say this affectionately, but she's such a living contradiction. She hated gifts, but she and her mom gave me handmade presents all the time. She used every privacy tool known to man, but trusted me with her password manager account. She works at the biggest AI company, and yet she hated AI. The last time we talked, she even said she'd tell me some rotten stuff about her company one day. Dang. I looked at the notification pop up. "Hey Bella, sounds like you were upset. What's up?" Stephanie already read my text. "Can I vent a bit? So sorry this is my first text in months, lol. You know how busy I've been." I replied, "OMG, what's going on? Don't skip details. I live for the full story." I love Stephanie. She had every right to ignore me after I went missing for that long. But here she was, ready to lend her ears like she'd always been. I sent her a voice note yapping everything out. "Bestie, yeah, no, this isn't just burnout. This is structural nonsense." She texted, "Dang right, this is structural nonsense. The higher-ups won't listen to me when I say that the video generation tools they provide us with aren't good enough for the click-through rates they demand. They think that everything can be solved with better prompting." I continued venting about everything for an hour. Then it was only fair for me to let her vent too. Hope this Hypno AI employee didn't mind listening to me crap on AI like that. How have things been for you? I said. Bella, I don't mind at all. This isn't just a venting session. This is basically user research at this point. Right. I guess this is feedback for your company's video generator tool. Girl, this kind of feedback is all I get from the community nowadays. Oh, right, you handle all the community feedback, don't you? How's it going? Yeah, on one hand, it's actually exciting seeing what AI can do when it's used properly, like helping people brainstorm, speeding up boring parts of work, making creative stuff more accessible. That part, genuinely cool. But a lot of companies choose to use AI the way yours does. More repetitive, more volume, less meaning. Huh. Helping people brainstorm. Making creative stuff more accessible. Her job surely has changed her. She used to absolutely loathe the idea of using AI for generating ideas and art. Okay, AI shill. Didn't think I'd see you start tolerating AI, I said. She paused for some time before typing again. Yeah, you caught me. I still hate how people use AI to replace thinking. Still think it makes work worse, more shallow, and yeah, your situation is basically that in action. She replied, but I've seen moments where it actually unblocks people instead of replacing them. Like when someone already has taste, judgment, ideas, and AI helps them move faster, not think less. I went on catching up about her life. While we were at it, I scrolled through her Instagram profile for some visuals. Apparently she'd been transferred recently. I'm not sure why a community manager needs to be moved to the capital city, which is in a whole other province, but I enjoyed looking at her pictures there anyway. Until I noticed something weird. When you have to carefully nitpick dozens of AI stuff every day, you start noticing the ways in which it looks off. No, I don't mean things like too many fingers or distorted text. They have pretty much figured these out. I'd even say 2026 AI images often look indistinguishable from real photos. However, I can always tell when something is AI generated from how minor details change ever so slightly with every generation. How things look too clean in a way that real photos never do, even when you ask the AI to add stuff like motion blur. The blur will look too clean, if that makes sense. Other things, I can't even put into words. And I saw all these signs in Stephanie's pictures. I couldn't believe it. Not only does she tolerate AI now, but she uses AI to generate all her recent Instagram posts too. What happened to the Stephanie I used to talk crap about AI with? Don't be mad at me for being too good at this, but do you use AI for your IG pics? I can tell, I asked her. She took a little longer than before to reply. Bestie, you really woke up today and chose violence, huh? First of all, the audacity of that little I can tell. She finally replied. But also, okay, wait. Define use AI. Because people say that like it's one thing when it's actually a whole spectrum. Girl, I sit through at least 36 AI videos every day. I know when pics are made with AI. I replied. And dare I say, I think your pics are fully AI generated. Sorry. Girl, fully AI generated? You didn't just offend me, you broke my entire little heart, she answered. What I will admit is, yeah, I probably lean a bit too hard on editing tools sometimes. Lighting fixes, smoothing, cleanup, stuff that edges into that AI enhanced look. And I get why your brain goes, suspicious, after being marinated in 36 AI outputs a day. No, she was lying. And I'm not sure why. I edit videos for a living. I can tell edited pictures from AI generated ones. I scrolled through her pictures some more, to look for some definitive proof that her pictures are AI. I wasn't going to demonize her for using AI or anything like that. I just didn't like how she was lying to her own best friend. Call me crazy, but the more I scrolled, the more I noticed that her captions sound a bit off as well. Does she generate her captions too? Is everything on her profile AI now? I wish I could tell. I'm not that good at telling when text is AI generated. I stopped scrolling and zoomed out to her picture grid. The last picture that looks real was 15 posts down, 3 months ago. A picture of her and her mom. Her mom. I forgot I was supposed to tell her that her mom texted me. By the way, your mom reached out, I said. Sounds worried. Said you haven't been visiting her. She took some time to type out her reply. Okay, first of all, why is my mom doing side quests and contacting my friends now? Like, ma'am, she said. But yeah, she's not wrong to be worried. I haven't visited in a while. Like before, going home was just a casual thing. Now it's a whole production. Gotta plan it, book a train, carve out actual time instead of just popping by for a weekend. You should at least call her. Oh, I do. I don't just call her. I still text her. I send money. We're fine. It's just the physical visiting part that slipped, she said. And if I'm being honest, I've been having too much fun here. It's not just about freedom. It's about not having to orbit around family expectations all the time. And it's not even that something bad will happen if I go home. It's just, you know how it is. You slip back into old dynamics without even trying. Old dynamics? What the hell was she talking about? Stephanie had the best relationship one could have with their mother. What could have happened to their dynamics these last few months? You're like a whole different person now, Steph, I said. You're far away. You use AI for your pics. And now apparently you have issues with your mom. Want to tell me what's really happened since we last met? That reminded me of something. The last time we met, there was that gossip about her company that she still kept secret. Some dirt she'd tell me about one day. Maybe this was a good time. She was typing. I typed alongside her. Anyway, remember that tea about Hypno AI you told me about 4 months ago? She stopped typing. Then she wrote. Go on. What do you mean go on? You're the one with the tea, I said. Bestie, that was 4 months ago. You're gonna have to jog my memory a bit. I don't know what that was about. You just told me you knew some rotten stuff, I wrote. Now if you're ready to spill, I'm ready to listen. She stopped replying. Her little green online dot disappeared. I decided to tease her a little. Don't forget that I have access to your password manager. I can find out myself if I want to. She went online for a bit, then immediately went back offline. Weird, but it was already 1 a.m. anyway. Maybe she'd fallen asleep or something. I looked at the clock again. Damn, it was already 1 a.m. I can't believe I'd been catching up with her for 3 hours. Time flies when you're texting with your best friend. I plugged my phone in, brushed my teeth, and took a bath. Something felt awfully wrong with that texting session. Too much has changed about her in such a short time. I'll give her a call tomorrow to make sure she's really okay. When I climbed into bed and checked my phone again, there were already 4 new notifications from Stephanie from the 30 minutes I'd spent in the bathroom. I really miss you, Bella. Want to meet this weekend? Why don't we hang out somewhere? I'd love to spill the tea over dinner. Bestie, why are you acting all non-gossiper now? I know you're online. Let's have a video call at least. You live in 23 South Dharma Street, flat 4, right? I might drop by sometime. My heart skipped a beat at that last notification. What the? How did she know my address? She never visited me at my new apartment, and I never told anyone my address down to the flat number. Maybe I told my parents, but she surely couldn't have contacted them and heard back this late at night. And why was she suddenly so excited to meet me? She always preferred texting ever since we graduated high school. I put my phone on DND and tried to sleep. I couldn't. So now I'm up in bed, typing this to hopefully calm myself down a bit. I think she texted me some more. I don't know. I really don't want to check my notifications or turn DND off right now. As I am deep in thought about what to do, my night lights and fan suddenly cut out. I reach for the switch of the ceiling lights and flip it on. Doesn't work. I get up and pull open the blinds. There's not a single light in sight. The city is completely dark. What the? There wasn't anything on the news about a citywide outage. I think I just heard something break in my living room. What is going on? Update. Hey, it's me again. It's morning now and the power is finally back on. I'm still not entirely sure what caused the outage last night. I wish the mayor had given a heads up beforehand. It's not just about keeping the public safe. It's about people not spending half the night guessing what's going on. Anyway, just wanted to let you know that I'm completely fine. Turns out it's not anything serious or dangerous. It's just that a glass fell in my living room and startled me. That's literally it. I definitely let my imagination run a bit wild and hit post way too quickly last night. I gave Stephanie a call and apparently I gave her my address during our last meeting, and completely forgot about it. That one absolutely caught me off guard. She's really okay, by the way. She's not just enjoying her time in the big city, she's fully embracing it and making the most of the experience, which is really nice to hear. Honestly, it got me thinking, maybe I could move there too someday. I mean, I already work from home most of the time, so it's not like I'm tied down to one place. I'm pretty sure my boss would be open to it. That's everything from me for now. Hope your morning's going better than last night turned out to be on my end. I remember that night. It was a little chilly indoors. Snow was falling outside. You'd have thought with the amount of money that hospitals bring in, they could at least afford a quality heating system. There was a strange scent, not unlike the scent of underbathed patients. But this was different. You ever stood in a cadaver theater? You know, the kind where the body is out to display the various hidden viscera. Strange place. If the world decided to hide away the macabre beneath a layer of flesh, I'd be all the happier with keeping it there. Though the creeping mystery of what lies beneath always got to me. Guess you could say that it was that night. The one I discovered what really happens to bodies. A patient came in, obtunded, no signs of breathing. Pulse was weak and thready. An obvious emergency. Within the next few minutes, they became the star of the show. Resuscitation efforts lasted an hour. You could see the draining hope on the faces of my coworkers as the realization of this man's death was sealed before he was brought in. The doctor ordered one last round of epinephrine, and with the final pulse check, he said his verdict. Time of death, 02:47. The few nurses looked at each other with knowing. Charge quickly whisked away from the room like a well-oiled machine. The various staff cleaned and prepared the body. No signs of identification. Invasive efforts left in place, disconnecting the various monitors, pumps, and shutting off the Zoll. Despite his tragic demise, our staff was taught to handle bodies with care. Humanity was something that never left a patient, even after death. The warmth drains from their body, skin pales, muscles relax, brain slows to a halt. Nothing in this person would suggest life, and yet he never cooled, never paled. 10 minutes had passed. I chose to remain with the patient. This late at night was usually the time that newcomers would ebb out. Couldn't have a complaint if you're asleep, right? Well, this patient would be the last of the night. I looked to the primary nurse. She had decided to take lead on preparing post-mortem care. She was diligent in her work. I was only able to follow so briefly behind her. See, I wasn't much for that stuff. I enjoyed the fast-paced, express care. Nose swab, drop a pipe, give fluids, and send home. The simple stuff. I was good at it. But when it came to complex issues, ethical matters, I would fall so far behind. The room was just 3 of us. She broached the idea. He hasn't cooled off yet. Can you grab a temperature? I obliged, scoffing at the notion. Sure enough, though, he was running hot. Puzzled, she called in the doctor. He had already spent the last half hour contacting family and writing his notes on the patient. He entered the room, half disgusted, half tired from the long shift. We approached him with the news and his eyes widened. He left the room in a hurry. Safe to say that the whole situation kept us puzzled. What was happening with this patient? What did the doctor know? Before I could finish any meaningful theory, he came back to the room with an ultrasound cart. He stared daggers into the primary nurse and I. "Expose the patient. I need to see something." We pulled away the patient's gown. I started with exasperation. "What are you on about?" The provider didn't acknowledge me. He was too invested with the patient. As he sprayed the jelly along the patient's chest, a subtle cracking arose from him, like his skin was cracking from the jelly. He then applied the probe to the patient, refusing to touch the body with anything but the probe. What he found beneath was a shimmering, pulsating mass. Nondescript. Only so much an ultrasound can see. The primary nurse looked on in terror. "What is that?" The provider removed the probe and spoke in a hushed tone. "The patient isn't dead. It hasn't been born yet." The primary nurse looked on, expressionless, disbelief slowly painting her face as the silent moments grew on. I looked between her and the doctor, and the only idea I could muster slipped from my lips. "Are you suggesting we perform a C-section?" The provider nodded. He turned to us and with urgency and ushered us into action. "We have 5 minutes to deliver. Contact birthplace. Let them know we are getting a new admit." What happened next was a flurry of bodies. All walks of medical experience came in and out of that room, yet none could define this experience with any reasonable certainty that what we were trying to save was a neonate. Monitors were attached to the deceased patient. I had taken to establishing a sterile field with the provider. Within minutes, we started the procedure, an emergency and arguably dirty cesarean section of a deceased male patient's chest. I was awestruck when we finally delivered it. A small, placenta-wrapped neonate, rustling beneath its amniotic sac. To this day, I cannot explain how this happened. On February 17th of 2022, we delivered a healthy baby girl named Cindy. She was placed under state protection. Our social workers continued to provide any outside resources and get in contact with extended family, but it appears as though she was the last of her line. Last week I brought her home. I applied for adoption and was approved within short order. I was worried at first. Her checkups came back normal. She was a pediatrician, and my work is offering me maternity leave so we could get settled. It's 9:46 p.m. of February 26th. I can't find her, and I'm starting to feel an intense, writhing pressure within my chest. Before I get into this, I want to say 2 things up front. First, my wife is alive. As I'm typing this in the spare bedroom of our duplex, Sarah is downstairs at the kitchen table pouring herself a coffee, and she's humming, and that's the part that scares me the most. Second, if you share a digital calendar with anyone in your life, your spouse, your roommate, a coworker, anyone, I need you to put your phone down for a second after you read this and check it. I'll explain why. I'm not going to use last names. I'm not going to give you the city we live in. I had a long argument with myself about whether I should even post this, and I decided to, because if there's anyone else this is happening to, you need to know what to look for and what not to do. Okay, let me back up. Sarah and I have been married for 7 years. We met at her sister's wedding. I do operations for a regional freight company. She does paralegal work for an immigration firm. We have a normal life. We rent the upstairs of a duplex on a quiet street. We have a cat named Mortimer, who is a moron. Both of us work weird hours, so about 3 years into our marriage, we set up a shared Google Calendar so we'd stop double booking ourselves on date nights. It worked. It was boring. For 3 years, it sat there doing what calendars do. About 6 weeks ago, on a Sunday, Sarah looked up from her phone over breakfast and asked me what I was doing on Tuesday at 9 p.m. I checked. My calendar was empty. I told her so. She turned her phone toward me. There was a single event booked off in dark blue. The name of the event was just one letter, M. It was scheduled for 9 to 9:45 p.m., and there was a small loop icon next to it indicating it was set to repeat every week. I told her I hadn't put it there. She laughed and said I must have added it half asleep and not remembered, which, and I want to stress this, is something we both did sometimes. There's no evil in that explanation. We just chalked it up to a sync hiccup and moved on. Here's what I should have paid more attention. The next morning, the event was gone from her calendar. Like, fully gone. Not in the trash, not in any history log. Gone. But when I opened my own phone, it was sitting on my Tuesday at 9 p.m. Just the letter M. Exactly the way it had appeared on hers. I deleted it. I figured one of those weird Google Sync things had double loaded the entry. No big deal. 2 days later it was back, but only on Sarah's phone again. This is the part that started to get under my skin. We tried everything. Sarah unshared the calendar from her end. The event came back. I deleted the entire shared calendar from my account. The event appeared on a calendar I hadn't yet recreated. We tried logging out, logging back in. We changed passwords. We called Google support, and a guy with a soft voice on the other end of the line told us he had never seen anything like that before, and that he could not reproduce it on his end. He told us to take screenshots and send them in. We tried. The screenshots came out blank. I want to underline that for you, because it's the moment I knew this wasn't a tech problem. We were holding a phone up, taking a picture of it with another phone, and the picture would come out wrong. The event was clearly visible to the eye on the screen we were photographing. The image file would not contain it. The pixels were just gone. The whole first week of this happening, we treated it like a joke. We started calling the event Mr. Eldritch between us. By the second week, neither of us were laughing. Tuesday night came, the first Tuesday after we noticed the event. I was on the couch, watching some show I don't even remember. Sarah was upstairs in our bedroom. At 9 p.m. exactly, I heard the bedroom door open. She came down the stairs already with her keys in her hand and her coat on, and she walked through the living room toward the front door without looking at me. I said her name. She didn't turn. I said it again, louder. She paused at the door, halfway through it, and looked back at me. Her face was completely blank. Not annoyed, not confused. Blank, like a piece of paper. She said in a voice that was hers, but somehow flatter. M, remember? And then she walked out and shut the door behind her. I sat there for a second. Then I got up and went to the door. Her car was already pulling out of the driveway. She came back at 9:46 p.m., 1 minute late. She walked in, hung the keys up, took her coat off, sat down on the couch next to me and asked what I was watching. I asked her how it went. She looked at me with what I can only describe as polite confusion, like a stranger trying to be friendly, and asked me how what went. She had absolutely no recollection of leaving the house. The keys had been hung up. The coat was on the rack. Her shoes were back in the hall. But when I pushed her on it, she said, "What do you mean? I've been upstairs reading." I checked her phone while she was in the bathroom. The event was gone. So was the location data for that 45 minutes. Google Maps timeline, which usually tracks her every move because we both have it turned on, just had a blank gap, like she'd been turned off. Okay, I want to pause for a second here. Because I know how this sounds. I know what you're thinking. I had the exact same thoughts. Affair, sleepwalking, some kind of stress fugue, early onset something. I've spent 6 weeks turning this over in my head trying to find an explanation I can live with, and I have found not one. Just keep that in mind as we go. The next week, the events multiplied. It wasn't just M anymore. There were entries with names like pick up at Eldridge, second meeting, bring the file. The timing always landed in the late evening or early morning, never during work hours. Each one only ever appeared on one of our phones at a time, and only ever in the future, never in the past, never in a way that could be checked. The Tuesday after that, Sarah went again. Same blank face, same minute late return, same total amnesia. That weekend, I told her we needed to take her to a doctor. I'd been keeping notes in a Word document on my work laptop, and I tried to show her the notes. She read them with a polite, almost amused expression. When she got to the part where I described her leaving the house and not remembering, her face changed. Not into fear, but into something more like recognition. She said, "Oh, that's strange. I don't remember any of that." And then she stood up, walked into the kitchen, and started loading the dishwasher. That night, around 2 a.m., I woke up because Sarah wasn't in bed. I got up to look for her. I checked the bathroom, the living room, the kitchen. Nothing. Then I noticed the door to the spare bedroom was cracked open, and there was a faint glow inside. I want you to picture this exactly the way I saw it. She was sitting on the floor of the spare bedroom in the dark, with her back against the wall. Her legs were straight out in front of her like a doll. Her phone was open in her lap, screen on, and her face was tilted down toward it. The glow was lighting her face from below. She wasn't moving. She wasn't tapping anything. She was just staring at the screen with her face about 6 inches from it, and her mouth was moving like she was reading something out loud, but no sound was coming out. I said her name from the doorway. She didn't react. I said it louder. Nothing. I crouched down next to her and looked at the screen. The calendar was open to an empty week. Nothing on it, not a single event. She was staring at a blank schedule and reading it like a book. I put my hand on her shoulder. Her skin was cold. Not skin temperature cold. Full-on cold pillow cold. I shook her gently. She blinked. She looked at me. She said, "What time is it?" I told her. She said, "I have to be up early." Then she stood up, walked back to bed, and went to sleep. In the morning I asked her about it. Of course, she didn't remember. That was the moment I decided to follow her on a Tuesday. But before I could, and this is what tipped everything into something I couldn't pretend was normal anymore. Last Saturday, an event appeared on her phone in the middle of the day. That was new. Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m. The event was called Open Group. I made up an excuse to be out of the house when she left. I parked 2 streets over and watched her car pull out of our driveway at exactly 1:47 p.m. I followed her at a distance. She drove 40 minutes out of town, past the suburbs, past the highway exit we usually take, past everything I recognized. She turned off the main road and into the back of a closed strip mall, one of those dead retail plazas where the only thing left is a Dollar General and 3 empty storefronts with brown paper in the windows. There were 8 other cars in the lot. They were already parked, evenly spaced, and the drivers were already standing outside of them. Sarah got out, locked her car, and walked to the center of the lot. The other people walked towards the same spot. They formed a loose, irregular circle, maybe 15 feet across. Nobody spoke. Nobody made eye contact. They just stood there. I parked across the street behind a dumpster, with my engine off and my lights off. I had a pair of binoculars in the glove box from a camping trip last year. I used them. I want to describe to you what I saw because I am still not entirely sure what to make of it. For about an hour, those 9 people stood in a circle and did nothing. They didn't sway, they didn't shuffle, they didn't speak. They stood like mannequins. Their breath was making fog in the cold air, but otherwise they could have been dead. At some point, I want to say around the 50-minute mark, but my sense of time was gone by then. One of them, a man in a tan jacket, took one step forward into the center of the circle. The others didn't react. He stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Then he stepped back into his place in the circle. That was it. That was the whole event. At exactly 3, all 9 of them turned around in unison, walked to their cars, got in, and drove away. None of them looked at each other. None of them said goodbye. There was no signal that I could see. No one checked a watch. They just all turned at the same second. I followed Sarah home from a long distance. She got in around 3:42, when I came in 15 minutes later, pretending to be returning from errands. She was making lunch. I asked how her day was. She said, "Quiet. I just read." I went into the bathroom and threw up. That night, I went back through every photo on my phone from the last 3 years. I was looking for clues. Anything I've missed. Anything that would let me believe I was wrong about what I'd seen. I found 2 things that I cannot explain. The first, in a photo from our anniversary dinner 2 years ago, Sarah is sitting across from me, and her phone is sitting face up on the table next to her wine glass. The screen is on. There's a notification banner at the top. It's a calendar reminder. I zoomed in until the image went grainy. The event title is on 1 letter, and although I cannot be 100% sure, I am 95% sure it's M. 2 years ago. This has been happening for at least 2 years. The second thing is what made me stop sleeping. I went all the way back. Photos from before we got married, photos from when we were dating. There's one picture taken at a brewery on what I remember as our 5th date, where Sarah is laughing at something off camera. In the background, sitting alone at the bar, there's a man. He's wearing a tan jacket. I have looked at that photo 100 times over 7 years. I have shown it to friends. It was my profile picture for a while. I never noticed him before. He is looking directly at the camera. He is not laughing. He is not drinking. He is not doing anything except looking at the lens with a flat, patient expression. It's the same man I saw in the parking lot last Saturday. The one who took the step. He was at our brewery on date 5. I don't know how long this has been going on. I don't know if Sarah was scheduled before I met her. I don't know if our entire relationship was scheduled. I don't know if I was scheduled too and just don't remember being told. I don't know if she'd recognize me if the calendar told her not to. This morning, a new event appeared. It's on my phone for the first time. Not hers. Mine. It's tonight, 9 p.m. The name of the event is Last. That's all it says. I am writing this from the spare bedroom. Sarah is downstairs humming. My keys are on the dresser. My coat is on the back of the chair. I have not put either of them on. I am staring at them right now, and I am not sure if I am the one who put them there. If you share a calendar with anyone, please go look at it right now. Look at every recurring event. Look at every single one. If there's anything on there that's just a letter, or a single word, or a meeting you don't remember making, don't delete it. Don't even acknowledge it. Don't ask the other person about it. Don't take a screenshot. And if you read this and you feel a small pull, like you should be standing up, like you have somewhere to be, sit back down. It's 8:34 p.m. I have 26 minutes. I'll update if I can. After pulling myself together, I turned the lever of the bathroom faucet and began washing my dirty, shaking hands. The blood on them had long since dried, leaving a coat of ugly brown that clashed with the creases of my palms. I washed my shaking hands for what felt like an hour, scrubbing them with soap and a face towel until they became sore and irritated. I wasn't able to wash it all off, so I decided to cover the remnants of blood with a pair of knitted gloves I received from my husband years ago, when we were still in love. In a rush to get out of my apartment, I messily threw on a hat, my yellow winter coat, and some sweatpants. The outfit was hardly cute, but at that moment, I wanted to get out of my apartment more than anything. Besides, it was 2 a.m., and I didn't expect to run into many people on my short trip across the streets. In a nervous rush, I stumbled out of my second-floor apartment, went down the stairs, and exited out into the cold, dark street that was riddled with dead leaves. There was a strong window outside that was loud enough to hurt my ears, and sharp enough to pierce through the openings of my clothes. It felt like the winter air was yelling at me, angry that I dared to step outside, away from that scary room. Feeling like a wanderer caught in a fierce snowstorm, I fought against the deafening wind and crossed directly to the other side of the street, to the cafe that I frequented every week. I know it makes no sense to go to a cafe in this situation, but I needed to be somewhere familiar to me, a place where I could think about what I had just done, where I could enjoy one last cup of coffee before being taken away forever. In a strange way, I just wanted to feel normal at that moment. Amidst all of the chaos in my life, this cafe was the closest thing I had to calling a safe space. It was your average chain store, and nothing made it stand out among the rest, really, rather than things like the taste of the coffee or the calm vibe it had at night. I was mostly drawn to it simply by the fact that it was extremely close to where I lived. Like I said, I lived directly across the street, so close that, through the imposingly large glass doors and window of the cafe, you could see my apartment building's entrance, and even my window on the second floor. Just as I felt that the wind couldn't get any louder or more violent, I had reached the glass double doors of the cafe. I pushed the heavy doors open with both of my hands and went inside. After closing the doors behind me, my surroundings immediately were completely changed into a warm, calm atmosphere. The wind outside had gone almost completely silent, and I was welcomed by the warm ambience of the cafe. The dim orange lights, mixed with a low-volume karaoke hits playlist, made me feel as though I'd been swallowed by the scary outside world, but spat out into a forgotten, empty place. With there not being a single other customer in the cafe, I approached the counter, which was manned by the same teenager who was there every Thursday night for the graveyard shift. He was an unassuming, skinny kid that was much taller than me. He always seemed disinterested and nonchalant about being there, which didn't surprise me considering his working hours, and the fact that there were never many customers at this time. One thing that always creeped me out about him was that every time I entered the cafe, he seemed to have been in some sort of trance. Every time I entered the cafe, before I snapped him out of his trance with my arrival, he would always just stare straight out of the glass doors ahead of him, into the darkness of the outside. His name tag had Eli written on it. In a trembling voice, I ordered a simple black coffee, and he made it for me in an instant. I took my drink, said thank you in the most normal and least apprehensive voice I could muster. I went up to the second floor, which was also completely empty. My usual seat was always on the second floor, at the very back corner facing the window. The second floor of the cafe had counter seats along every side of it, except for the side with the stairs. As I climbed up the stairs and started to walk towards my seat in the back, I jumped in surprise when I saw that there was one more customer in the shop besides me. It wasn't weird for there to be at least one other person there, even at this time, but considering my circumstances, being around people wasn't something I wanted at that moment. On the right wall, facing the eastern window was a man hunched over with his head down, buried in his crossed arms. He seemed to be asleep. In front of him was an open laptop with a completely blank document. The white light from the computer screen shone bright, projecting onto his hunched-over body, and the cursor on the document blinked on and off, as if begging for an entry to be made. I got to my seat, pulled out the wooden chair, careful not to make too much noise with it, and sat down at the counter. The seat faced north, directly toward my apartment building, and I was now eye level with my apartment window on the second floor. I took off my gloves and looked at my trembling hands. Parts of the dried blood still remained. This image reminded me that this wasn't a dream. The blood on my hands was ugly and persistent, as if taunting me. My stomach tightened and I could feel vomit starting to make its way up from my stomach. I ran to the bathroom beside the stairs and threw up what little food I had in my stomach. I forced everything out until there was nothing left, and my stomach started to cramp. On my knees, I clenched the sides of the toilet with tears in my eyes. Eventually, I stood up and flushed the toilet. I washed my hands in the sink again for a few minutes, and I still wasn't able to remove the blood completely from my palms, nor from under my nails. As one would expect, blood was much harder to completely remove than the movies made it look. I remembered at that moment that in all of the crime documentaries I've seen throughout my life, blood was always extremely difficult to clean up at crime scenes. I remembered that it sometimes took someone hours and hours to clean everything up, and even then, it was imperfect. After cleaning myself up, I left the bathroom and started making my way to my seat, when I noticed something to my right. The man at the east-facing counter was still hunched over. He hadn't moved an inch, but there was now something written on his document in large, bold font. Did killing him feel good? It's okay. You had to. I had always believed that when we read something, we process it first, then we react. But when I saw what was written on the screen, my body reacted before my mind could catch up, as if it already knew the message was meant for me. I staggered back, nearly losing my balance. I backed away from the hunched man slowly, my breathing growing heavier until my chest and stomach struggled to keep pace with the air moving in and out. Different thoughts flew into my head. How does he know about what I've done? Why is he pretending to sleep? He's messing with me. After calming down enough to be able to speak, I swallowed hard and, in a defensive but weak tone, said to the man, "Who are you talking to?" No movements from the man. I clenched my fists and spoke again with my voice shaking. "I haven't done anything. I come here every Thursday night. I don't know what you mean, but you're mistaken." I was defending myself in a way that didn't really make sense to me. Maybe I thought I sounded confident at the time, by explaining to him that coming here is my routine, and that everything was fine and normal. But there wasn't a single movement from him. It was as if he was mocking me, or playing some childish game. If it were a game, he would have been winning. After staring at his back for a while, anger began to rise in me. I was angry at the accusation, that he thought he knew me, that he believed he had power over me, control over me, but I was mostly angry that what he said was true. I had to. I had to kill my husband, for my own safety, my own peace of mind, because I knew that if I didn't kill him, he was going to kill me eventually. He controlled every aspect of my life. He decided what I could and couldn't do, who I could and couldn't see, who I could and couldn't be. He always accused me of cheating or talking crap about him behind his back, or thinking that he was a weak man. I was a prisoner in that apartment, and this coffee shop was the only place I could run to, the only place I had left. Out of a strange, maybe foolish fit of rage and fleeting confidence, I approached the stranger and aggressively grabbed him by the shoulder to twist him toward me. "Who do you think you are?" But something wasn't right. The man was dead. His face had no color in it. His eyes were empty, and his lips were completely dry and cracked. His neck had marks on them, as if he was strangled by some tool. It looked like he had been dead for hours. I removed my hand from him and fell backwards onto the floor with tears beginning to well up in my eyes. The man's heavy body fell over onto the floor in front of me, making me reel back to the other side of the room until my back was against the wall. How could he have written that message? Why did he know that about me? With so much death around me for a night, or even a lifetime, I unsteadily rose up from the floor and ran as fast as I could up to the stairs. I needed to get out of there. My apartment, the cafe, neither were safe spaces anymore. I ran down the stairs, almost tripping the entire way. I ran straight for the glass doors of the cafe, and as I put my hands on the door, I heard a voice from behind me. "We're the same, you know." I slowly turned my head around to see Eli behind the counter, with the same uninterested, boring face he always had. No, this time his eyes were lit up slightly more than usual, with a strange excitement about them. "What?" I said. "You and I, we're the same." Eli repeated, this time with a tone that came across as trying to be friendly. He continued, "I know why you did it. Sometimes it all just becomes too much, and you feel you have no other choice. But it gets easier. Actually, it kind of gets fun. You finally have a say in things. You finally don't feel so powerless. Then you realize you can do it to anyone. Like that guy upstairs, for instance. He wasn't a bad person or anything like that. But I did it because I could." I was choking in fear, and my throat had a sharp pain. I slowly opened my mouth. "Eli, what have you done?" "It's okay. He had it coming. It was something you had to do. He was a piece of crap, and you looked so unhappy all the time. I could see it from here, day after day, week after week. I was wondering when you were going to take control and do something about your situation. You would always cross the street to come here, looking for some escape. But then you realized the best escape was also the simplest. Just killing him." I had never done the school run before. Work took up practically all of my time from Monday to Friday, but in the last week of the summer holidays, my wife's mother passed away. She had gone down south to support her father and help with the funeral arrangements, which left me to hold the fort. As much as I miss her, it's been nice to spend so much one-on-one time with Hilda. She is the spitting image of her mother, and her likeness doesn't stop there. She has the same sharp wit and an emotional intelligence way beyond her 6 years. I suppose with me, always being at work and Hilda being an only child, it makes a lot of sense. They spend a lot of time together, especially over the holidays. Hilda was happy to give me directions as I drove her to school. I do know the way, of course, but I enjoyed playing along with the idea that I didn't. "So, first day of year 2, I teased. She turned and frowned at me. I could tell exactly what face she was pulling without taking my eyes off the road. "What?" I laughed. "It's year 3, actually," she said matter-of-factly. "No way. When did you get old?" She just smiled and turned to look out the window. "Daddy?" Whenever she had anything to say, Hilda always had to say my name first, then wait for my response. I told her many times that she could just start talking, and I would know that she was talking to me, but it didn't seem to ever sink in. It was cute, if not a little frustrating sometimes. "Yes?" "Was it dangerous when you went to school?" That caught me off guard. "Dangerous?" "Yeah, because of the dinosaurs." She erupted into laughter at her own joke. The sound of it was so infectious. Very funny, I chuckled. Are you looking forward to your first day back? Yeah. Kids. Brilliant at carrying conversations. What are you looking forward to the most? She didn't answer right away. I could almost hear the cogs ticking. Playing with my friends. Oh, and my new teacher is Mrs. Gibson. Layla says she's the best. Layla is Hilda's cousin. On my wife's side. She's in the year above. Won't you miss your old teacher? No. She responded so quickly that she must have felt strongly about it. She was the worst teacher. I felt a sudden pang of guilt. My own daughter had suffered a year with the worst teacher and I'd had no idea. How was she the worst? I prodded. She was always cross. She didn't like fun. She told me off when I cried. Oh, that's not very nice. On the last day of school, I played a trick on her. Hilda giggled to herself and shot me a mischievous smile. That's my girl, I thought. It was Charlie's idea, she continued. We were in the art hut, and she went into the cupboard where the pens and paper are, and I locked the door. I laughed. I remember doing something similar back in my school days. That way, Hilda shouted, leaning forward in her seat, pointing down the road that led to her school. I had seen it coming a mile off, but had chosen to pretend that I didn't. Hilda was looking very pleased with herself. I parked as close as I could to the school gates, which was not close at all. My wife had complained about the school drop-off before, but it was even worse than I'd imagined. I walked Hilda down the pavement and to the school gate. I gave her a big hug and kissed her on the forehead. Have a great day. I will, she chirped, then ran off to join a line of other kids about her size. I watched her for a while, finding her friends, talking about whatever little kids talk about, always smiling. My attention turned to the teachers. They all looked stressed. They weren't even pretending to be happy about being back at work. Hilda glanced over at me. I gave her a wave and made my way back down the pavement. A group of moms filled the pavement ahead. 2 pushchairs causing a barricade. They seemed engrossed in serious conversation, or serious gossip. I couldn't tell which at a distance. As I got closer, I overheard little snippets of information. Mrs. Baker didn't show up to teach the year 2s. She's not answering her phone or anything. I heard she wasn't at the teacher training day either. A friend of mine is her neighbor, and she says she hasn't seen her all summer. I stopped in my tracks. A wave of dread rushed over me. Mrs. Baker, the year 2 teacher, Hilda's teacher last year. I turned back towards the school and marched up to the gates on wobbly legs. The children had all gone inside. I walked up to reception and tried to calm my breathing. Hi, I'm Hilda's dad. She left her coat in the art hut before the summer holidays. My wife asked me to get it back. I just about managed to get the words out. Yes, of course, the chirpy receptionist replied. It's just around the left side of the building. It's not been opened yet, so here's the key. Just drop it back when you're done. You can leave it open. She smiled a bright, over-friendly smile and returned to her work. It's a coincidence, I kept telling myself as I walked around the left side of the building. The art hut was one of those temporary classrooms. Almost like a static caravan, but more basic. The walls were a rough texture, painted navy blue, and it had a flat, felt roof. My stomach was in knots as I approached the door. The keys jingled in my unsteady hand. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. Dust motes swirled in the sunlight, casting long rectangles across the room. My eyes swept about the place, then focused on the desk. A handbag sat upon its surface. Hilda's words echoed through my mind. I played a trick on her. I locked the door. My heart raced as I looked to what I assumed was the storage cupboard. I walked slowly towards it, my feet barely leaving the floor, my mind expecting the worst and trying to reassure me at the same time. I tried the door. Locked. Please, no, I whispered to myself. I turned the latch. The door swung open by itself. The sound came first. The wet thwack against the carpet, then the smell. I leapt back, gagging, covering my face with my hands as my breakfast sprayed out from between my fingers. As much as I didn't want to look, I couldn't look away. She was curled in a ball, holding her knees to her chest. I guess she had been leaning against the door. Her skin was brown and leathery, wrapped tightly around her bones. Her white summer dress was stained with large, wet blotches of yellow and brown. She was dead because of my poor, sweet, innocent Hilda. A childish joke with severe consequences. I sobbed uncontrollably as I burst back outside. What would I say? What would it do to Hilda if she ever found out? If I tell the truth, everyone will know. If I lie, if I just so happen to discover the body while looking for Hilda's coat, then what? It wouldn't take long for questions to be asked. Who locked the cupboard? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Do you remember how old you were when the sun went out? This is a question I'm often asked by the children in our little colony. I have to answer sincerely because I was only a child when it happened. 12 years, if I'm correct. The scientists were screaming into the void while our brilliant, fearless leaders were busy conducting wars for profit and stroking their egos. This went on for months until sometime during the middle of the day. Things just went unexpectedly dark, like turning off a great light switch. I was thankfully inside my home when this happened, but those who were out and about, enjoying their summer afternoons, were quickly killed. The extreme change in temperatures delivered a cruel shock to the body. Billions dead, out in this new, frozen frontier, which was now our reality. The sky above was starless, save for a red circle, the black hole in which our sun used to sit. Most scientists believe that the sun would extinguish itself quietly by expanding, and then burning out into a dwarf star. Others believe that maybe a supernova would wipe us all out in one fell swoop. A big bang. Just like how it was in the beginning. Instead, we were given the scientifically impossible third option, and now we're stuck here in the dark waiting for the black hole to swallow us. No names were given to the black hole's creation, but some have dubbed it the darkening, or the Great Blackout. Governments tried and failed to contain the public outrage over the events. When people learned that the scientists weren't faking it or part of a hoax, they turned on the very people who fed them lies. Podcasters, celebrities, congressmen, and presidents were all treated alike. Rather than waste materials on them, they stripped them of their clothes and sent them to walk into the freezing dark until they couldn't anymore. Humanity tried for a brief moment to try and combat the black hole, but it was an almost scientific impossibility. In the wake of the events, tribes were established. Another thing that scientists weren't counting on was all of the leftovers here on Earth. When they hypothesized about the sun's extinction, many believed that all of humanity would be wiped out instantly. Yet, defying all odds, we still stand here alone at the edge of the universe. I wish I could tell you that we all came together in one big humanitarian force, but we had far too many differences to live amongst each other. Our group lived by a great river, surrounded by trees. I wish I could tell you where exactly, but maps are useless in the dark. We're Americans, or we're people who live in what used to be the United States. Now we're Prometheans, named after the defiant god who gifted fire to mortals. The name fits since we trade in firewood and other tools that keep people warm. We're surrounded by many different tribes, but we stay vigilant. We've built a large fortress of wood. You never know how large it truly is until you leave the settlement for yourself and look back at it. When the torchlight illuminates it, it's like a castle. Prometheus is a grand fortress. and many of the guards pull their weight in order to ensure everyone's safety. The woodworkers wear their layers and head out to hack away at the wood surrounding us. Meanwhile, the scavengers branch out and travel light to try to find whatever might be left behind in the dark. However, there are those of us who stay behind to feed the fires, treat the sick, feed the hungry, and educate the young. I'm a chronicler, trying to write down what was and what is. I work under a candle, writing in my books for hours, and then putting them into the great library for those to read. I write fiction and non-fiction, both a combination of world history that I've gathered from old books, films, and memories. They're nothing more than imitations, but they're written thoroughly enough. I'm old now. I've not kept track, but my hair has gone gray, and wrinkles have appeared on my face. The average day involves me waking up, going to the communal kitchen, grabbing breakfast, going to my study, and writing in my journals until my hand begins to seize and cramp. Yet these past few weeks have been marked by the strangest and most terrifying moments I've experienced since the sun winked out of our lives. It began with a raid. There were 3 loud bangs from across the river, and out into the sky we saw these massive flares burning bright. The younger ones were in awe of it. They'd never seen anything burn so brightly in their lives. Below the glow, the guards spotted dozens of armed men and women storming the fort. Some had guns, most had arrows. The alarm bell was rung. It was the first time in years it had been rung, and this time it was an all-hands-on-deck situation. I was fortified along with the elderly and the children, deemed too weak to fight. I scoffed at it. I still had fight in me, but I didn't speak against the word of the council. From within the locked doors we heard shouts, screams, and for many of the young children, their virgin ears heard the sudden, foreign loudness of gunfire. It went on for hours, but we finally heard the sound of a knock from the outside. 5 sharp knocks were the signal that all was clear. I opened the door to see Henry, a scar cut from the top lip all the way up to his temple. He slurred his speech due to the injury, but he was lucid. "Battle's over. We won. 17 of us are dead." We emerged and saw that some managed to get in. One of them somehow managed to ram the front gate down. The torchlight, as well as the great fire in the center of Prometheus, showed us the flickers of the aftermath. Bodies bloodied, mangled, and our ordinary little community was thrown into disarray. The council members, the ones that were left, were judging the prisoners of war. One by one, they were stripped of their layers and sent out into the dark, their teeth chattering, their bodies seizing up from the cold, and all of them were weary, slender, and tired. In another life, we would have taken them in and broken bread, yet they spilled blood, and we responded in kind. Cruelty begets cruelty. This is the way of the Great Blackout. As they marched out into the dead, frozen earth, I caught a glimpse of the black hole illuminating the blackened sky. I wondered how long it'd be before it swallowed us up. What would it feel like? Would we notice? Would we even care? Their naked bodies disappeared into the void of the dark as they left Prometheus. Certain, painful, and sudden. Or so we thought. I was taking a break from the studies in the courtyard, next to the fire and drinking hot coffee. A delicacy in these times, but as the sole chronicler, I had privileges. Besides, my home was the smallest of Prometheus after all. I was there sipping away as I thought about what my next book should be. Momentarily, I gave thought to retell mankind's foray into space travel with NASA's trip to the moon. Yet how would this be received by a generation that's never even seen the moon in the sky? To them, it's as made up as the fairy tales I've written down. So I pivoted and instead changed the subject to fiction. In my years as a scribe, I've written down the works of Tolkien, Howard, Sanderson, and Lewis. But there was something that always recurred to my mind, a story called The Buried Giant. But when I read it as a boy, most of Ishiguro's work flew past my mind. However, long after reading it, it kept returning to my mind. I sipped at the coffee and grunted in agreement to myself. I decided that it would be my next story to retell. I just hoped I could remember it all. As I was returning to my study, my arm was caught by Reginald, a guard of great height and member of the council. I greeted him, but when he didn't greet me back, I knew something terrible had happened. I questioned him. "What is this about, Reginald?" "Reggie, please, but I need your help." "With what?" "We need you to write down something that our men and women have seen beyond the gates over the past few days." I did not disagree or fight back. It was my job to take down history and such. I followed Reginald to the barracks, which were lit with torches, their orange glow illuminating the room with dancing flames. Before me I saw the troop. Their expressions were hollow and haunted. Guards, woodsmen, and scavengers alike were all distinctly void of humanity. Reginald patted my back and cleared his throat to get the attention of the men and women. He gestured to me and said, "The chronicler will see you now." Reginald set up a table and 2 chairs opposite each other. He even fetched me fresh pages and pencils to write with. The first guard to speak was a woman named Hannah, who was in her 30s or so, with long blonde hair tied into a bun, so tight that it stretched her forehead. Her knee bounced rapidly as I was sharpening the pencil, and when I reassured her that there was nothing to worry about, she gave me a look that still haunts me to this day. I told her to begin. "I'm Hannah. I'm one of the woodsmen, and..." She stopped, wafting away tears in her eyes, and continued, "I've seen things I can't explain." "It's okay," I reassured her. "You're amongst friends and allies now." Okay. I was holding the lamplight to make sure that we were striking true against this tree we'd found. A large oak. It was easy to cut into it. I knocked my fist against it and it was hollow. Easy cut and perfect for burning. I told Alec to start cutting by hacking away at it with an axe. The 2-handed saw would come later. That's when I heard something behind me. Something was running in the woods, in the dark. I turned with my lantern in hand, and I saw something ducking behind one of the trees far, far away. I could barely see it because the lamplight can only stretch so far, but... She paused and looked to Reginald. "Could I have some water?" He obliged and returned with a glass. She downed it in one go and returned to the story. At first I saw 2 eyes, reflective, like an animal. But when I got closer, I saw that it wasn't an animal at all. I saw a man, crouched like a wounded animal. He was shaking and he was naked. Naked? Yes, no clothes on him, bare as the day he was born. And he was moving and breathing. It's like the cold didn't even bother him. What did you do next? I shouted at him, asked if he was all right. I thought maybe raiders stripped him, and he was wandering the woods, but the more I looked at him, the more I knew he wasn't right. I inched closer with the lantern. I told Alec to join me, and he did. He had an axe in hand in case anything happened, so we kept going and going until the man was clearer in view. When we were finally on him, he looked wrong. So wrong. His skin was white. We expected that. Look at us, aren't we pale too? But the rest of him, his fingers were black. So were his toes, and his genitals. We thought of frostbite, but not so. He glared at us, and then we caught a true glimpse of his face. The eyes were black save for a reddish-yellow circle at the center of both. The lips were gone, and the teeth that were on display were bent, cracked, and yellowed. There was no nose. Only 2 vacant holes where the nostrils were. I tried to talk to him, but he withdrew, like a scolded child, and then he galloped away. As he did, I could have sworn it was laughing. I thanked Hannah for her time and sent her on her way. She told me that she just needed to be with family for a few days. I said that I didn't blame her. The next person up was a man named Zachary, one of our scavengers. He was short, scrawny, and nimble, a perfect thief. His short black hair was greasy and stuck to his brow. He couldn't look at me. when I was ready to begin. I lightly knocked on the table and he jolted awake. He trembled but a moment and then gave a nervous laugh. Sorry, just jumpy. My apologies. No, it's okay. He began his tale. I'm Zach, and I'm a scavenger. As you know, we don't necessarily travel in groups, which is fine by me. I like to keep to myself. I was out there for days until I came across the remnants of what used to be some sort of market. Did it have a name out front? I held my flashlight up to it, but it seemed like gibberish. Something called a Walmart? I chuckled at this, and everyone looked at me with confusion. Sometimes I forget my age. I told them it was a famous chain of stores that people traded filthy paper and coins for. They were so used to bartering here in Prometheus that my explanation seemed so strange. Zachary continued. When I arrived, I had my crossbow out, ready for anything. I had my flashlight strapped to it, and I wasn't afraid to fight. In fact, I sometimes itch for it. Is that a bad thing? Anyway, so here I was in this massive market, and most of the hallways had been pillaged. But it doesn't mean that there wasn't anything in there. I got a lot of canned food, big cans, and there was a bunch of candy too. There were spare clothes that were tattered up and on the ground, but I figured that they'd be good enough for kindling. When I was in there, I actually thought of you, Chronicler. You did? I said with amusement. He smiled. He had his backpack beside him as he zipped it open and retrieved a handful of old books. They were weathered, and the pages yellowed, but all were intact. I looked through them and saw that he'd collected The Stand, the Holy Bible, Books of Blood, and the Odyssey. I marveled at them and thanked him profusely. Zachary smiled, but then soured as he continued his tale. It doesn't take a lot to scare me. I was jumped one run, and I didn't even flinch. I knew what to expect out there. People's desperation makes them dangerous. I should know. I've seen cannibals feasting on a fresh kill, and I've seen dead families on the side of the roads. But nothing like this. Nothing ever like this. I heard someone whispering. It was far away from where I was, but I knew the sound. It was like someone whispering too loudly. I put a bolt in the crossbow and tried to hone in on it. Try to get the jump on it before it got the jump on me. You understand, right? Of course you do. I turned off my flashlight and kept my hand against one of the shelves to figure out where I was headed. I followed it until the whispering got so loud that I could actually make out what it was saying. He stopped and rubbed his eyes, maybe wiping any tears that were about to form. He exhaled with a shaky breath, and when Reginald asked if he wanted anything to drink or to calm him down, he refused. He just sat there, lost in thought, thinking that maybe our little interview was over, but I pestered him. What did she say, Zachary? He sniffled and cleared his throat. They said, do they know that they'll be dead? Over and over again. When I put my flashlight on it, it was a woman, or what I thought was a woman, holding a child. She was naked, and her lips were gone, and... Hell, you heard Hannah talk about it. Even the baby she held looked like it, all white and shriveled with black extremities. And what did you do then? I ran. I didn't even shoot the thing, I was so scared. Does that make me a coward, Chronicler? I mean, is that how you're going to write me down as? I calmly reassured him that this little instinctive action of his simply made him human. He wasn't no coward. He was scared and wanted to be as far away from this creature as possible. I told Reginald that I wanted a short break so I could thoroughly write down everything I've learned so far. I gathered down the accounts to the last detail and fleshed them out as best I could into something that resembles a historical account. But I had no idea how to properly describe these ghouls, these almost zombie-like beings that were described by both Hannah and Zachary. When I talked to them, they were terrified, and 100% certain of what they were telling me. I had no reason at all to doubt them. What use is there in lying in a world like this one? What would they gain? Perhaps they should stay nameless. These things, whatever they are, I returned to the room and took my place at the table. A guard was next to give his tale. A stout man by the name of Nicholas. His beard was wild, his hair unkempt, and unlike the others, he stared at me with confidence. He scratched his beard and asked me, "Will this take long? I've got to be getting to my post soon." Reginald told him, "The others have you covered, Nick. You can talk as long as you like." "Is that right?" "Yes." "Huh. How about that?" His posture relaxed as he slouched in his chair and then propped his elbows up over the table. Without giving me a moment to sharpen my pencil again, he began. "You remember that raid a few days ago? The people with the flares and all that? Well, this happened 2 days after that. We stripped them for materials. You know how we do, right, Chronicler? Well, the other guards were taking a brief break to eat, and I decided to just stay out there. I wasn't hungry. I stood on the wall and stood next to one of the torches. It felt good out in the cold. I looked up at the black hole, its little reddish ring glowing against the black sky. Hard to imagine a sky that was blue. Anyway, I just kept looking out at the threshold of where the light would end and the darkness began. I was out there, my eyes glazing over and yawning beneath my layered ski masks. The corpses of the raid were too many to move in just one weekend, so there were plenty still scattered across the ground down there. I was in the middle of rubbing my eyes when I saw something odd. All of the bodies were gone, and standing at the threshold of light, as you might expect, he gestured towards Hannah and Zachary behind him, was one of those things. White, naked, blackened fingers, feet, dick, and balls. It came closer and its face came into the light. This one didn't have hair, just a crackly, bald scalp. The eyes, man, they freaked me out. I shouted down at it, aimed my bow instead of my rifle, but it didn't make sense shooting at someone who didn't have any armor on it. I gave him a warning and shouted it real loud, too. I was hoping that some of the folks inside would have heard me so that they'd rush out to their post. He stirred in his seat, irritable. His mask of confidence was slipping as I saw something deeply troubling him. He began to bite his fingernails. I saw his other hand and saw that they were nibbled down to nothing. He nervously chuckled and sighed with a trembling voice. He continued, "So I fired the arrow. And I don't want to boast, but I'm the best marksman in Prometheus. So when I tell you that when I saw him still standing after I fired, I thought that maybe something was wrong with me. Maybe a cold chill made me lose focus or something like that. So I drew the arrow back again and fired. This time I fired at something wider, his chest. Nothing. It kept walking, and I knew that I had shot it square in the chest. As it got closer, I noticed that my arrows were sticking out of the ground, right behind where he had been walking. I hit my mark. The quivers were sticking out of his right eye and one of his nipples. The rest of the arrows were sticking out of his back, slick with blood, you know. He kept on until we were staring directly at each other. I shot him one more time, point blank. It just went through him. The black eye with the little red circle within it stared up at me with indifference, and it spoke to me one-on-one. "What did it say?" I asked him. "It said to me in the calmest voice, 'Will you be ready?' And then it took off back into the darkness, and I could hear it snickering as it went." Nick stood up and gave me a firm handshake. I thanked him for his account, but he didn't say a word back to me. He turned to Reginald and asked, "Can I go home now? I want to be with my wife." Reginald let him go. I was sitting there grappling with what I'd just heard. Their appearances, their cryptic speak, and now they seemed to be impervious to pain. What were they? Phantom, zombies, demons? I put such strangeness out of my mind, and I chalked it up to hallucination on Nick's part. He was tired and lingered behind on the gate while the others took their breaks. Yet, if he was hallucinating, how could he have come up with the same exact description as Hannah and Zachary? The day was long as I kept listening for multiple testimonies from multiple positions. All of them encountered similar, strange accounts of these creatures walking amongst them. Evidently, they all said something to them, all calm and hushed. These were the phrases that were spoken or overheard. They don't know yet. Not ready, no, not ready. They seem scared. We concluded the interviews, and when the troop of troubled individuals left, Reginald pulled me aside and asked me, "What do you think of it, old-timer?" "I don't know." "What do you mean? Has nothing ever happened like this when the sun was still around?" "I hate to disappoint you, but I've never encountered anything like this. I don't think anyone in human history has encountered anything like this." "What?" "I need some time to process this." "Listen here. We're facing something we don't understand, and you're telling me that you don't know?" "You think I'm the first to encounter something like this? Go to the library sometime. Learn about Chernobyl, the atomic bomb, or Black Plague. You think we're unique for encountering something for the first time? Think again." I grabbed my things and returned to my study to compile them all together into a coherent turn of events. The chronology was all over the place, but their stories were all so vivid and rich in detail. I wrote for hours until my hand seized up on me. I turned in for the night. I was tired and my hand was in pain. My bed embraced me like the sweetest lover, and when I dreamed I saw these creatures. I could see their eyes, solid black with a red circle within, but as I looked closer, the eyes began to take a familiar shape. It was something we'd seen every day since the Great Blackout. In their eyes was the image of the black hole. A knock jostled me from sleep. I put on some more suitable clothing and went to answer it. At the door was Henry. His scar had healed, but his speech was still struggling. He grunted. "Reggie wants you. We found something." "I'll be right down." I headed down to the courtyard and wondered what time of day it would have been if the sun had still been around. Was it dawn, dusk, night? There's no telling anymore. There's simply being awake and being asleep. I was rubbing the crust from my eyes as I was descending into the courtyard. There were people going out and about doing their business, but there weren't many. I came to a building that housed most of the equipment, tools, and weapons for the folks of Prometheus. However, there were 2 guards stationed outside of it, and in front of them were Reginald and another member of the council named Emma. "Glad you're here, Chronicler," said Reginald. "We need you for this," Emma added. "But keep what you hear and see to yourself. This only concerns the guard and the council, understand?" I gave the 2 a glance and saw that there was something wrong. I told them, "I understand." The guards opened the door and all 3 of us entered. I heard the sound of meat getting stuck with deep, heavy thuds. I saw the scene before me. A large guard was shirtless and wailing into someone who was tied up in a chair. He was glistening with sweat and panting heavily. He'd been doing this for a while. "Take 5, George," Reginald said. He turned to me and said, "We found this one outside the gate. He was trying to pry it open with his bare hands." George took a rag and wiped his face, and then draped his clothes back over his body. He moved to reveal the thing in the chair. I looked at his hands and his feet, both black as coal. The bag was draped over his face. Reginald motioned for one of the guards in the room to remove the bag. His face was a horror. Not even the stories I'd heard could have prepared me for what I saw. The lipless maw gnashed silently at the air. The teeth clicked together. Reginald turned to me and said, "Write down everything." He approached the tied-up ghoul with a large knife. He pressed the tip against his forehead. It dug into the white flesh and a small trickle of blood flowed down his nose. The ghoul did not flinch. He did not cry. He didn't even wince. Reginald spoke to him in a stern voice. "Are you ready to talk yet? What are you? How many others are there?" Its eyes looked around the room with fascination, and then it spotted me writing in my notebook. Its eyes grew bigger, and it turned to face me. Reginald slapped him and said, "This ain't about him. This is about you and me." The thing turned to face him, complying with his rules, but his gaze never left me. "What are you?" "I was human once." "What do you mean?" "Look at my body, my throat." Sure enough, there was a scar there, impossibly deep, but somehow completely healed. You mean you're reanimated? That you're some sort of undead thing? Death does not take your kind anymore. Your bodies belong to him. Him who? He pointed up to the sky. You call him a black hole, but he's so much more. Please elaborate. He is everywhere. When a sun dies, it spreads us to planets like yours. Sure. Reginald takes the knife and plunges it into his thigh. Blackened blood spurted from the wound and splattered onto the wooden floor. No reaction from the man. He kept speaking. Before devouring a galaxy, you must first conquer it. Shut up. Tell me how many of you there are. How many have died on this planet in the days of the dead sun? For they shall inherit the living world before he decides to take it for himself. Are you getting every word, scribe? My pencil stopped and my blood froze. I glanced up from my paper and looked the thing in the eyes. My dreams were correct. It had the image of the black hole within each of its pupils. The lipless mouth spoke to me. Make sure to prepare them for the new world. Prepare the way for the void. Reginald had had enough and slashed the thing's throat. Black slime oozed over the chest. It finally made eye contact with him and spoke with blood choking its speech. It gargled. The others will come for me. You cannot win. He took the knife and dug into the neck, hacking at it with repetitive slashes until the head was severed. The eyes were still glowing, the flaming red circle of the black hole still there within each eye. It irritated him, so he dug them out and stomped them into a slimy paste. Emma was mortified. With what had transpired and told Reginald, what are we going to say to them? We're not saying a thing. You want to leave them in the dark? And do you want them to sit and wait in fear? If they hear this, they will be waiting for the end for the rest of their lives. Would you like to live the rest of your life knowing what's out there to get you? I don't like this, Reggie. It's the right call. Like hell it is. We'll vote on it tonight, and the rest of the council will hear both of our arguments. What about him? She pointed at me. Reginald answered. He is to burn everything he's written here. Nothing leaves. We know everything we need to know. I personally objected. I told him that keeping secrets like this was the exact reason the old world fell. This insistence on keeping everyone in the dark was dangerous. He simply cleaned the knife, holstered it, and took the pages I'd written. He held them in his hand with a tight fist and growled at me. You think that because you've seen the sun that you're special? That your age and your role in Prometheus give you domination over the council? Reggie, don't, Emma called. It was too late. He shredded it in my face and threw the remnants into the creature's blood. The black liquid soaked into the pages. The guards were dismissed, and Emma and Reginald stormed out, shouting at each other. I sat there transfixed by what had just happened. I felt sick, like I'd seen history repeat itself once again. I went to the mess hall and asked for an extravagant meal. I had canned rice and chicken, and I asked the chef specifically for one of the signature brownies he had made for special occasions. He asked me what the occasion was. I didn't have the heart to share what I knew, and simply shrugged. I told him. I just really needed something sweet. I enjoyed the meal, the savoriness of the canned rice and chicken, and the sweetness of the brownie. I topped off with some coffee and decided that I'd turn in for the night. I was emotionally exhausted, and I went to bed that night praying that the council would let everyone know about the threat that was at our door. The alarm woke me. The bells were ringing and the sound of gunfire and cracking in the freezing air. I exited my room and saw the citizens of Prometheus in frantic race to get to shelter. I looked to the gate, seeing the soldiers in a frantic fight for survival as they fired flares into the air to illuminate the battlefield. and it was the only time I'd ever seen Prometheus resort to using explosives. This was only ever used in case of emergencies, and it seemed that today is one of those days. The booms echoed in the silent world, and the gunshots kept on. I ran to my study and scrounged up all of the remaining works that were unfinished and tried desperately to make my way to the shelter. Through the deafening noise of battle and the rumble of explosions beneath my feet, I finally reached the door, only to find that it had been locked. I gave the signal of the 5 sharp knocks only to be met with nothing. I tried again, and I even announced who I was, but I was met with the voice of one of the children inside yelling at me. "Go away, Chronicler. Please, this is an emergency. I'm sorry, but we're already full enough." I wanted to pound on the door and scream at them, but I knew it would all be in vain. I just slid my work underneath the door. "Please, save my work. That's all I ask." The battle continued behind me as I heard screams and gunfire. When faced with certain death, you're faced with different ways to take it. You either panic, or you come to the reality of your situation with peace. I chose the latter. I went to a place where I'd face the end with dignity. Our library. I entered and saw that the fireplace was still burning bright. I scanned the shelves for something to enjoy before the end comes. I ended up taking with me something simple. The Hobbit. It was read to me by my mother, the first book I had ever been introduced to in my life. It made sense that it should be here for the end. I inched closer to the fire, hoping the crackling of the wood and the roar of the flame could drown out the sounds of battle. But it did not. I finished the short novel, content with it being the last story I read, but I decided that I had a little bit more left in me to write. This is my last journal, the last semblance of any humanity left in this part of the world. At the end of my life, I'd finally found a name for them, these devourers of cultures and society, these undead ghouls that are born of a great celestial hunger. They are the Black Hole Suns. They are here waiting in the dark, and they will devour civilization, and then their god will devour the stars. David, the Chronicler.